October 14th, 1953. Fabrique Nationale Plant, Herstal, Belgium. The clang of steel echoes like distant gunfire. Sparks bloom, die, and bloom again across the dim factory floor as rows of receivers, freshly milled, still warm, slide down the track. And in the middle of that metallic chorus stands Dieudonné Saive, jaw tight, coat dusted with steel shavings, staring at a weapon he believes will reshape the modern battlefield. You can almost smell the hot oil and cold iron. You can almost feel the tension tightening around the man who inherited a legend. A year earlier, the world had watched John Moses Browning's era fade. His death left a void no designer could hope to fill. Yet here was Saive, Browning's protege, gripping the prototype of his own creation. A rifle the Belgian engineers whispered about in the hallways. A rifle military attachés requested private glimpses of. A rifle NATO was quietly watching. On the blueprint table beside him lay a name freshly stamped at the top. Fusil Automatique Léger, the FAL. Outside the plant's high windows, storm clouds gathered over the Meuse River, rolling like armored columns. Inside, Saive's fingers traced the contours of the long-stroke gas piston, the adjustable regulator, the curved 20-round magazine. He wasn't thinking of glory, he was thinking of something far more pressing: time. Because in a world that had survived one global war and was drifting toward another, armies were searching for the weapon that would define the next conflict. And the clock was ticking. He hands the rifle to a young FN technician. "Again," Saive says simply. The technician nods, locks a fresh test cartridge into the chamber, and braces. The prototype bucks with a violent mechanical snap. Shell casings bounce across the concrete. The smell of burnt powder spreads in a thin gray veil. But Saive isn't looking at the rifle. He's watching the technician's shoulder, the recoil, the stance, the recovery. The FAL was meant to fire a full-power 7.6251 NATO round. That kind of force can rattle even a seasoned soldier. But this time, the recoil looks manageable, even elegant. Saive exhales, slow. He's getting closer. Behind him, footsteps echo, measured, authoritative. Two British officers in service dress stride in, exchanging cautious glances. The Cold War is tightening like a vice, and the United Kingdom needs a modern rifle. They've already tested a dozen prototypes. None impressed them. But FN's creation? This one has rumors orbiting it like moths around a lantern. Saive gestures politely. "Gentlemen, you wish to see the demonstration?" One of the officers nods. "We've heard intriguing things." The technician chambers another round. Another shot cracks. Metal sings. The officers watch, leaning forward, eyes narrowing with every cycle of the bolt. There's a moment, small, nearly invisible, when the older officer glances at Saive with an expression that says what words won't. This might be it. A rifle that could function in mud, cold, sand, or monsoon rain. A rifle that could turn any conscript into a competent marksman. A rifle with the punch of a battle rifle and the handling of something lighter. But just as hope swells in Saive's chest, the younger officer speaks. "Mr. Saive, Belgium's design is promising, but Britain intends to modernize with an intermediate cartridge, lighter, faster, controllable and automatic." The room freezes. It's the same argument again. The same tension between full-power tradition and the new philosophy spreading across Europe like wildfire. Saive's expression hardens. "If you want a rifle that wins wars, gentlemen, this is the one." A long silence follows, broken only by the faint ticking of distant machinery. Then the senior officer says quietly, "We'll take it under consideration." But Saive can feel the uncertainty. Britain wants innovation, NATO wants standardization, and the superpowers, America and the Soviet Union, are preparing to tug Europe in two different directions. The FAL stands at the crossroads. As the officers turn to leave, thunder rolls across the Belgian sky, the factory lights flicker, and on the assembly table, the rifle that will soon be called the right arm of the free world lies in silence, waiting for a decision that will ignite a geopolitical storm. And within 12 months, that storm will erupt violently.
February 25th, 1954. NATO headquarters, Paris. A winter rain slashes against the tall windows of the conference building as delegates from across the alliance gather around a long oak table. Papers rustle, boots scuff, uniform collars creak as generals shift their weight, preparing for a debate they already know will get heated. And to the center of the table, sitting on a velvet-lined rest like an artifact from the future, lies the rifle now known simply as the FAL. You can almost feel the cold tension in the air. You can hear the rain hammering the glass like distant artillery. Belgium's representatives sit upright, confident, steady. Britain's officers lean back, guarded, exchanging quick glances. Across from them, the Americans sit stone-faced, neither impressed nor dismissive, hiding their intentions as well as any diplomat on the planet. The Supreme Allied Commander, General Matthew Ridgway, clears his throat. Gentlemen, today we finalize the standard NATO rifle. The words drop like a death charge. One rifle, one cartridge, one standard to bind the alliance together as the Iron Curtain hardens across Europe. Belgium's voice breaks the stillness first, calm but forceful. The FAL is proven, reliable, accurate. More importantly, it's ready now. A British officer responds immediately, leaning forward. We agree it's impressive, but we must anticipate future warfare. Lighter ammunition increases mobility. Higher controllability increases firepower. The EM2. A murmur ripples around the table. There it is, Britain's real desire. The EM2, the bullpup dream. Experimental, futuristic, and deeply political. Belgium counters sharply. With respect, the EM2 is not ready for mass production. The FAL is. Across the room, the Americans exchange silent looks. They've heard the arguments, they've seen the tests, and they have their own agenda. One U.S. representative finally speaks. He taps his pen against a file stamped 7.62 by 51 millimeters NATO. The United States insists on this cartridge. Full power, long range, proven lethality. Britain stiffens. That round is too powerful for automatic fire. The American smiles thinly. Then don't use automatic fire. The temperature in the room seems to drop 10 degrees. This is no longer a technical debate. It's a clash of doctrines, a clash of futures. Belgium pushes the FAL forward across the table. Test it with your cartridge, see what happens. And they already know what will. The FAL will perform, perhaps better than any rifle NATO has ever seen. A technician sets up a demonstration in the building's indoor range. The delegates gather behind the safety glass, their breath fogging slightly in the chilled air. The first test shot cracks, sharp, powerful, contained. The second, the third. The rifle cycles beautifully. No misfeeds, no failures, no dramatic recoil. The Belgian team stands tall. But then an American general, broad-shouldered, unimpressed, steps closer and speaks quietly enough that only a few hear him. Impressive, yes, but we have our own design. There it is, the elephant in the room. The United States Army has no intention of standardizing on a foreign rifle, not when Springfield Armory is already refining something new, something blocky, heavy, built like a tank, a rifle that will soon be named the M14. A decision is forming in the room long before anyone votes. But the FAL is too good to ignore entirely, too refined, too modern, too right for the era that lies ahead. One British officer whispers under his breath, "If America refuses, we'll adopt it ourselves." And they will, but not today. The meeting adjourns with no applause, no smiles, no satisfaction, only the uneasy knowledge that politics has eclipsed practicality. Outside, the rain finally stops. The delegates disperse, and the FAL, still warm from testing, is returned to its case. Tomorrow, decisions will be drafted behind closed doors. And within weeks, the course of NATO's small arms future will shift, dramatically, irreversibly. But the FAL is not done, not even close. Because across the Atlantic, far from the diplomatic chessboard, one nation's army has quietly requested a shipment of test rifles. A nation about to erupt into a brutal, grinding conflict where the FAL will prove exactly what it's capable of. And that nation is already preparing for war. July 31st, 1957, Katanga Province, Belgian Congo. The sun hangs low and vicious over the savannah, turning every metal surface into a mirror of heat. Cicadas scream from the bush, dust hangs in the air like chalk. And somewhere beyond the ridge, beyond the dry riverbed, beyond the shimmering haze, gunfire cracks in sharp, desperate bursts. A UN convoy, blue helmets shimmering in the furnace-like light, pushes slowly toward the smoke. Armored cars rumble forward. Soldiers wipe sweat from their faces, boots sinking into the scorched earth. And leading the advance is a young paratrooper from Belgium's Force Publique, his new rifle gripped tight, finger resting along the trigger guard. The FAL, its first war. You can almost feel the oppressive heat pressing against his uniform. You can hear the dry grass whispering in the crosswind. They crest the ridge, and chaos explodes beneath them. Rebels are hammering a mining settlement, firing wildly from behind trucks, from tree lines, from the rusted skeletons of old machinery. Smoke coils upward in dark spirals. Civilians scatter in terrified waves. UN troops scramble to return fire, but their older bolt-action rifles struggle to match the tempo of the ambush. The Belgian paratrooper drops into kneeling position. He flicks the selector, raises the rifle. And when the first shot leaves the barrel, heavy, sharp, authoritative, it's like the landscape pauses for a heartbeat. The 7.62 round slams into a rebel vehicle's engine block, shearing through metal that older rifles could barely dent. Another shot, another. Dust bursts around fleeing silhouettes. The FAL's long recoil impulse pushes back against his shoulder, firm but surprisingly manageable. He advances. Short, controlled bursts. Magazine change. Another burst. The rebels, overwhelmed by the sudden precision and power, break. They scatter into the brush, leaving behind weapons, supplies, and a trail of dust that hangs in the air like smoke from a dying fire. When silence finally settles, it feels heavy, almost unreal. A UN captain steps forward, eyes wide. What rifle is that? The paratrooper pats the warm receiver, a small grin tugging at the corner of his mouth. New issue. The Belgians call it the FAL. The captain nods slowly, taking in the weight, the build, the modern shape. This, he mutters, is the future. Word travels fast. Within months, military attachés whisper the same thing. Reports circulate through NATO, Africa, South America, the Middle East. A rifle that handles like a fine tool. A rifle that refuses to jam in dust, mud, or monsoon rain. A rifle soldiers trust. And by 1959, the world begins to shift. Argentina places an order. Brazil follows. West Germany tests it. Canada licenses it.
Rhodesian and South African forces adopt it for their harsh terrain. Israel evaluates it for the battles it knows are coming. But behind the sudden surge of interest, another storm gathers, one far bloodier. A conflict brewing in southern Africa. A conflict of ideology, guerrilla warfare, and relentless terrain. A conflict where the FAL will not just perform, it will dominate. Because deep in the rolling hills of Rhodesia, insurgents are preparing ambushes that will test every bolt, every spring, every inch of steel. And soldiers armed with the FAL are about to march straight into one of the most brutal bush wars of the 20th century. And in that war, the FAL will earn a new reputation, one whispered with equal parts fear and respect.
November 3rd, 1967, Zambezi Valley, Rhodesia. Dawn breaks slowly over the river basin, bleeding pale light across a labyrinth of elephant grass, thorn thickets, and dry, broken earth. A damp mist clings to everything, muffling sound, swallowing breath. And through that mist moves a 6-man Rhodesian light infantry fire team, faces painted, boots wrapped in cloth, rifles held close to their chests. The FALs look almost alive in the morning haze, metal beating with droplets of dew. Every man grips his rifle like a lifeline, because out here, it is. You can hear the faint crackle of radios, the soft click of safety levers, the quiet rustle of gear brushing against low-lying branches. They're tracking intel of a Zipra guerrilla camp, a temporary base hidden somewhere in the maze of brush and ravines. Nothing about this terrain is forgiving. Visibility shifts from 30 meters to 3 in a heartbeat. Ambushes come from nowhere. Mines, tripwires, shadows that shoot back. In the Zambezi Valley, survival depends on instinct and firepower. The point man freezes, hand up, movement ahead, a faint figure crossing through the grass. The squad melts into cover, slow and silent as drifting smoke. The world narrows to heartbeats and breath. A guerrilla fighter steps into view, then another, then 3 more. An entire patrol, armed with AK-pattern rifles and old SKSs slung with strips of cloth. The FAL corporal raises his FAL, thumb brushing the selector. Not automatic, not yet. Single fire. Controlled. Precise. He inhales, exhales, squeezes. The shot is so loud in the morning stillness, it feels like the earth flinches. The first guerrilla collapses instantly. The others scatter, shouting, diving for cover, returning fire in a chaotic burst of 7.6239 that cracks through the grass like snapping twigs. The fire team splits, moving like a single organism. 2 sweep left, 2 drop prone. The corporal fires again. 2 rounds, clean and deliberate. The FAL's recoil pushes deep into his shoulder, but the sight picture stays stable. The rifle behaves like it was built for exactly this kind of fight. Short ranges, sudden violence, absolute clarity. RLI doctrine is brutally simple. Hit first, hit hard, keep moving. A guerrilla fighter pops up from behind a termite mound, spraying wildly. Dirt erupts around the corporal's boots. He switches to automatic just for a moment and unleashes a short burst. 3 rounds that hammer the mound with punishing force. Silence returns almost as fast as it was broken. The battle is over in seconds. The air smells of burnt powder and crushed grass. Empty casings glint in the rising sun. The fire team checks gear, reloads, and pushes onward. Because this was just the patrol. The main camp is still ahead. One of the troopers, sweat dripping down his jawline, slaps a fresh 20-round magazine into his FAL and mutters, "That thing hits like a train." The corporal nods. "That's why we carry it." He's not exaggerating. In the thick bush where engagements shift from 10 meters to 200 without warning, the FAL's raw power becomes a weapon of psychological dominance. Guerrilla fighters begin calling it the big rifle. Some whisper you can hear its impact from half a kilometer away. But as the RLI pushes deeper into insurgent territory, the more ferocious the resistance becomes, and the more the FAL is tested. They reach the outskirts of the suspected camp. Low huts, supply caches, smoke still rising from a dying fire. The corporal raises a fist. The team halts. Something is wrong. Too quiet. No guards. No movement. A trap. He steps forward, and the world erupts. An RPG streaks from the tree line. Bullets slice through the air. The grass explodes with muzzle flashes. The fire team is caught in a perfect L-shaped ambush. Men dive for cover as dirt sprays in violent fountains. One trooper goes down, hit in the leg. The corporal crawls behind a log, flips his rifle to semi, and returns fire with a fury that cuts through the chaos like lightning. The FAL bucks, roars, and smashes through foliage and tree bark. Its 7.62 rounds punch holes through cover the AKs can't penetrate. The bush becomes a wall of sound. Guns, shouts, explosions. But even as they fight back, the corporal sees it. This isn't a skirmish. It's a full-scale camp defense. Dozens of fighters. Entrenchments. Overlapping fields of fire. They're outnumbered, outflanked, pinned, and the only way out is through. The corporal wipes sweat and dirt from his brow, checks his magazine, and signals the men to prepare for a breakout. Because what happens next will determine whether the FAL's legend continues or ends in the dust of the Zambezi Valley.